Hello and welcome to the Winners Find a Way show. I am your host, Trent M. Clark, and I am a longtime serial entrepreneur. I am the author of Leading Winning Teams. I am the CEO of Leadershipity and a Bloom Growth Coach, and currently serve the Entrepreneurs Organization as their president here in West Michigan. Excited about that. And of course, you probably checked out maybe my TEDx talk called The Pain Exchange, which is always a fun little exercise on discipline, 9 minutes out of your life about a little discipline. But probably most people know me because I spent over 12 seasons and coached in 3 World Series. And today on the Winners Find a Way show, special baseball talk with my good buddy, David W.Q., author of the Baseball Hall of Fame, A Fan's Statistical Analysis. David, how are you doing, buddy?
I'm doing fine, Trent. Thank you for having me.
Well, thanks for coming in. David and I are Midwestern guys, and you can see he's a Midwest boy. Like, look at him. He's got the White Sox going. He's got the Cubs. Most people think he's a little confused, but, he's a Chicago guy.
Yes, I am. True and true.
True and true. Yeah. I love it. And you know what? Chicago baseball's got storied history, right? Like, it's so good. And, I was there, coached with Joe Madden for over 7 years with the Angels. And then he moved on to the Tampa Rays, and then, of course, came to Chicago and broke the curse, right, with the Cubbies and got him a title. Amazing. Game 7 there against another former team of mine, the Tribe, which is another heartbreaker because, think about the Tribe. We lost in 1997 in extra innings in Game 7, and then they lost in extra innings again in Game 7 to the Cubs, like heartbreaking.
I can't say I was heartbroken.
Yeah, no, I get that, David. I think all of us in Chicago were pretty elated. What was it? 106?
108 years.
108?
108.
It's funny, David. You'll get a kick out of this. I was doing a radio show in Chicago, and a young man called in, and it was a couple of years right after they'd won the World Series, and this boy said he's a big Sox fan, and he said, I hate the Cubs, and I'm like, wow, okay, and he goes, you know why? Because they just always win. And I was like, man, you're 10. It's clear, like, the only thing you've seen in the last 5 years is the Cubs winning, but 108 years says something different, right?
Oh,
so yeah. It's funny to hear the perspective of all the fans at different ages, right?
Yeah, I know you're a fan of Joe Madden, but when he put in Chapman for the 6th game in a row, I was upset. I actually predicted that he'd give up a home run. So I didn't actually watch the last out.
Yeah.
We were at a friend's house. I got a little upset and I left with my wife. But we listened to it on the radio.
It all worked out, man. It all worked out. I know, it's what I love about Joe Madden is he loves the statistics, right? Like yourself. He's a statistical guy, but he's also a feel guy. Like he really knows the players. He really wants to know his athletes. He's probably one of the best guys, David, at bringing along young talent and maximizing potential very rapidly. Where I think his kryptonite, if anything, was I don't think he was always a big veteran guy. Like where some of the other guys I think felt a little more comfortable with veterans. We had Mike Scioscia, of course, and Mike Scioscia won a world championship as a player and then won a world championship as a coach, as manager, and with the Angels. So both LA, right? Won for the Dodgers as a player, Angels for, his championship. And, he was so good with the veterans because, he was a veteran one time, right? He knew what it was like. And that was, I think, harder on Joe. But what a great manager. I think a lot of people question that decision, right? That talk was a lot about bringing him. And by the way, how about that kid? He's still going. He's still, what is he? I think he's almost 40, right?
Yeah.
Chapman and still throwing 100 miles an hour. Like,
oh yeah.
Well, he's got a pretty special arm.
As you know, any major leaguer can hit a fastball. They see it enough.
Oh, you'll get a kick out of this, David. Like, when you have players coming up every night, the coach calls in the statistics. And I remember we got a kid in Rule 5, and I will not say his name, and he was at AAA, and they called in his stats, came in the 8th, 27 pitches, 97 to 99, 6 hits, 3 home runs. I was like, I mean, like, it was like, oh my gosh, like this guy. I'm like thinking, man, if I could throw a 98-mile-an-hour fastball, I'm striking out everybody, right? And this guy is not missing a bat. Like, he gave up like 5 earned runs, and it was a tough night for him. And he's a really good pitcher. He went on to a decent major league career. But you're right. It doesn't matter how hard you throw. You throw that thing down the middle. We're hitting location. Like how you get there doesn't really matter. And fastballs down the middle, belt high are a real problem for people because it's going to get turned around in a hurry.
I was very fortunate. I watched one of the greatest pitchers ever grow up, Greg Adams.
Oh, so good, right?
He didn't throw over 90.
Yeah.
But he was an ace.
Yeah, he lived at 89 to 91, right? He lived there and just changing speeds and doing, mixing in and cutting. And man, just when you think you got a beat on the guy, cuts in on your hands and you're hitting on the label, and grounding off to second base. He's that good. And but you've written this book about the Hall of Fame, and we talk a lot about the Hall of Fame, and this is current news, right, David? Because the NFL Hall of Fame is in disarray because a coach who won 7, 8 Super Bowls, comes in his first chance, and they don't vote this guy in. Like, man, this guy's been around a long time and he's done a lot in this game. Like, if this guy's not deserving, and back to a point that we're going to talk about, David, he's probably not a fan favorite. He's not a good media guy, and he's not this and that. And so all of a sudden we're voting on likability. Like, I don't know. Statistically, he's done a crap ton of stuff, right? Is that fair?
Oh yeah. Him and Brady together.
Yeah. Yeah. And I just think I think the Writers Association have given themselves a black eye with that one. You do these things. Pete Rose is a little bit of a black eye. Like, and I know there's reasons for that, but this guy was an incredible player, right? And they're not going to vote him in because of his personal discretions. And when I think about, I think the Necro brothers are both in, right?
No, just Phil.
And when you think about Phil Necro, what does everyone immediately think about?
The knuckleball.
But people also think like Phil's got sandpaper in his belt and he's got something in his hair. And, there's a lot of stories about Phil Necro's pitches, right? And so, guys are trying to get an advantage every which way. And this has been going on from the beginning. And I was coaching in the middle of the steroid era, right? And the best player I've ever seen play this game is Barry Bonds.
I have to agree with you.
And listen, when you talk to the other players, how do they talk about Bonds?
They're in awe.
They're like, Chipper Jones. You're like, I thought I was pretty good. And Chipper Jones was a great player. He's like, I couldn't hold a candle. I couldn't hold that guy's jock strap. Like, this guy was amazing.
Before the steroid era commenced, he was already a Hall of Famer. And I point that out in my book.
Yes. Yeah. And I think, and I saw that, and I've read a couple of things, that people talk about, when we talk about the statistical analysis and what's happening there. It's really staggering. I love John Peterson. David Hughes, the Baseball Hall of Fame, is a treasure trove for anyone passionate about baseball. His deep understanding of the game's history and his insightful proposals for a fairer Hall of Fame selection process are both thought-provoking and inspiring. The book not only honors the legends of the past, but also provides a clear vision for the future of baseball. It's a must-read for every baseball enthusiast. I love that from John. Let's talk a little bit about that. Like, what needs to change as we look at, how we propose in the selection process? What should change, David?
Well, I believe the writers should have a vote, and that's all pointed out in the book. I've given point totals, for like 17 different categories. Some players, it's not fair to those that really don't have the batting statistics. So I put areas in there for fielding. If you've won Golden Gloves, if you won Silver Sluggers, it's all pointed out there. It's based on, to me, 110. It should be, I think, bowling and other sports have where if you reach a certain point total in statistics, you're automatically in. And I think that should be with baseball as well. One of the biggest anomalies is a guy by the name of Bernie Williams. I'm not a big Yankee fan, but Bernie Williams was taken off the ballot after the first year.
Yep.
Dale Murphy, he should be a Hall of Famer. He's not in.
Yep.
Steve Garvey. There's another one.
Yeah. Hey, Michigan State boy, Steve Garvey. Love
he
that.
should be in.
Yeah.
Until he had some family issues, he was a surefire Hall of Fame. Nobody even talks about him.
Yeah, you've mentioned a couple big names, pre-show here, and you mentioned a number of them. Let's just start with the first kind of some of the obvious. Buck O'Neil, Ron Santo, those guys got in after they had passed. Is that fair?
That's fair. And I was upset because there was 3 of them. Tommy John was the third.
Yeah,
and I actually met Buck O'Neil.
But Tommy's in now.
No, he's not.
He's not in. So
No.
Tommy, Tommy is a 288 game winner, cut a little bit short by a significant elbow injury, which is, of course, his legacy more than anything. This is the funny thing, David, that I think really gets frustrating. We tie legacies to people really based on things that aren't really about the game, right? And some of it is, but Tommy John is, we call Tommy John surgery, which is an elbow ligament reconstruction surgery where they pull ligament out of the leg and they help the elbow, really by stabilizing the elbow joint. And pitchers have come back. I mean, 16-year-olds are getting it now, right? Like, I mean, it's amazing. And Dr. Andrews down in, I think in Birmingham, he's an expert on this, right? And I think Jobs did Tommy John's. Is that right?
Frank Job did it.
Yep. So I knew Frank. He was the team physician. His medical group was the team physician for years for the Angels, and one of his understudies was our longtime physician. So amazing group, and obviously, saw a lot of pitchers, including one of the Cubby stars of the past, and kind of floundered because the injury was Mark Pryor. And, Mark is just an incredible pitcher, just a great athlete. And, injuries are injuries, man. I mean, it's a hard thing to come back. And I think this is the other thing that people don't understand is that there's a ton of kids that are coming up and those surgeries don't take. It's not like everybody gets repaired. Like we're $6 million man and everybody's Steve Austin and everybody gets put back together again. There's a lot of guys that it just couldn't come back from.
Correct.
And Tommy, though, 288 wins, obviously, one of the most famous Dodgers of all time. And it's heartbreaking, right? When a guy who has that kind of deal. And, the other thing statistically is that, there's a bunch of guys that he far surpasses statistically that are in.
Oh, yeah. Well, I was kind of upset when Sabathia beat him in,
Yeah.
I mean, having talked to Tommy and his wife, Tommy's a phenomenal person. And the reason why he has such an impact on me, and one of the reasons why I wrote the book, was because I want him to give his own Hall of Fame speech. I saw Buck O'Neil, one of his family members. I saw, Ron Santo, his wife.
Yep.
That's not right. Those are players that should have been in, I wouldn't say the first ballot, but maybe in the first 10 years.
Yeah.
And so I'm going to push for Tommy and Thurman. Thurman's not his fault he died.
Yeah. Yeah. Thurman Munster, great catcher from the Yankees. Tragic death. And there's some of these guys. Let's go to that. There's some tragic deaths here. J.R. Richards, Tony, how do you say Tony's last name? The pitcher?
Tony, oh, no, J.R. Richard.
No. The guy who's hit with the ball.
Oh, Tony Conigliaro.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you.
Tony's the youngest one ever to win a home run title at 20.
At 20.
At 20.
That's
he was
crazy.
A superstar.
Yeah, he was on his way, right?
Yes.
And life cut short at 46 years old. He was struck by a ball, right?
Yes.
Yeah. And that, how are you going to change that, right? Like, I worked with the Indians in the 90s, and of course, one of their greats, Herb Score, was one of our radio guys. And
Exactly.
Herb's a phenomenal man, right? Great person. Like, cut short, like someone hits a line drive straight off his head, right? Like, I was in Cleveland the day that Willie Blair was struck by Julio Franco. And I mean, that line drive, we didn't measure exit velocity back then, but that thing felt like it was coming out like 110 miles an hour. Like it looked like a bullet, man.
Well, we have one coming up soon, Dustin Pedroia.
Yep.
His career basically got ended because of a bad slide of another player.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. Under no fault of his own, right? Played second base.
Exactly.
And, and this almost happened to another guy, another great I coached. You remember the great Omar Vizquel.
Oh, yeah.
Omar was probably 21 and 22, and someone came in and ripped his knee all up. Remember that?
Yes, I do.
He healed very well and became, just a icon in Cleveland. I mean, that guy, and you talk about the statistical analysis of defense, and this guy's a wizard, right? Like this guy was worth the price of admission to watch play defense.
Yes, he was. He was his closest one to Ozzie Smith.
Yeah. Yeah. And Ozzie's another guy. Yeah. Like again, there's not many guys that are worth the price of admission to watch play defense, but a couple catchers have been in that category, right?
Oh, yeah.
And just so quick and just, eliminate the whole running game. And, it's so fun to watch that. And it's an interesting thing. And that feels like that has no weight in the Hall of Fame.
I know. Well, Buster Posey's coming up too.
Yep. Pretty solid. I mean, if there's that's a pretty good field general right there. And Buster's a fan favorite. Does he have the statistics to get in?
No, but he should.
Yeah.
He should.
It's an interesting deal how it's gonna play out. And in the day of Moneyball and Bill James and statistics, how would we not have some algorithm that would weight all these things out and show out who belongs and who doesn't?
Personally, as a fan, I don't care what the exit velocity is. All I care is, was it a hit or a home run?
Yeah. Yeah. It's some of the stats that we are measuring don't seem very important, right? And I just heard one of the guys I coached was just an amazing hitter, Sean Casey. Casey was on a podcast talking about his coach. He had this guy that was like this hitting guru, and he was like, nobody knew who he was, but he was like super just dead on. And he would call the guy and he talks about it, and he goes, he calls him up, he's frustrated, he's like 1 for 15, and he's like, all right, Case, walk me through your last 10 at bats. And he's like, I did this, 8 hard hit balls. He's like, you're doing your job, I gotta go. And that's it. He's like, that's your job, man. Like, it's still a David and Goliath story, right? It's 8 against 1. And all of them are designed to get you out, right? And so the overcomer goes out and is successful 30% of the time and makes $10 million a year to do it, right? And it's hard. So you go hit the ball 8 times. Hey, there's a lot of open space out there. Fortune will find you, but if you hit the ball hard, keep doing it, like you'll be rewarded. And sometimes you get one of those times where you're just like, I'm hitting on the screws. I'm just not getting hits, right?
Right. Can I tell you a story about Greg Maddux, who we brought up earlier?
Yeah, one of the best.
Actually, his story, Chipper Jones told him. He said Bobby Cox, or the pitching coach, came out to take him out of the game, or to tell him how the manager wanted him to pitch. He goes, nope, I'm not going to do that. He goes, I'm going to throw him a fastball off the plate. I'm going to bust him inside, and he's going to pop out to third base.
Yep.
Sure enough, that's exactly what happened. And Chipper Jones was amazed. He goes, that's why they call him the professor.
Yeah. Well, his catchers tell legacy stories, right? About the pitches he throws in the first inning, and he'll tell his catcher, when he comes up in the 7th, this is what we're going to do. And he's telling him in the 2nd inning, right? Yeah. Because the first just ended, and this is what we're going to do when it matters. And like, it all matters, right? Like there's only 27 outs, right? Like it all matters. But yeah, he is, in an era where I'll use the sample and like, listen, they're all great players. I mean, to play at that level, it's amazing. And, it's the 1% of 1%, right? But it really felt like they were playing checkers and he was playing chess.
Oh, yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah. And there's guys that can just rely on talent. Like they are super sharp. But you look at like guys like Manny Ramirez. I mean, a very calculated hitter. Like look at his intensity and his focus when he goes to hit. And he is statistically like very strong. He had a tendency in his younger days to wave at bad pitches, but he kept getting feedback. He kept watching video. And if there was a guy who really used video better than others, he was not at Gwynn's level for sure, but Manny was like, I know what this pitcher wants to do. I know what he's trying to do with me. And he was prepared.
So you grew up in a good era in Cleveland. You had Albert.
Oh yeah, wrecking crew of offense, right?
Yeah, Jim Tomei.
Oh yeah,
he's a great guy.
Fun. Oh, great person. Yeah, an Illinois guy, boy, like yourself.
Thanks. No, I follow all baseball. As a matter of fact, my Bible was the Bill Mazegrowski's baseball magazine. I read that from cover to cover.
Yeah,
and
well, it's iconic. The one cool thing about we mark time through baseball, right? Like if and you probably know this, I don't. When people say like, oh yeah, 68, oh, Miracle Mets. Like people like know these things, like and what is that now? That's well over 50 years now.
Oh yeah. I lived it.
yeah. And it's like, man, I was a Philly fanatic when I was a kid. My American League team in Michigan, of course, was the Detroit Tigers. And my first year in baseball in 1998, I started and Sparky Anderson was the manager. I'm like 1998. No, that's wrong. I'm sorry. 1993, I started. In 1993, I was 23 years old and became a coach. Got that talk like, you'd make a good coach. And I was like, no, I want to keep playing. And they're like, yeah, it's over. Then I'm 23 years old. Just 9 years before that, I was 14 and Sparky was the 84 Bless You Boys, and the Tiger Run. And it was amazing. And now we had Lance Parrish back. Gibson was back. Trammell and Whitaker were still short in the middle. Larry Herndon was now a coach. And it was just iconic for me as a kid to go in. And probably you'll appreciate this, David. Probably one of the best moments for me was walking in. I remember being in Tiger Town. We're in spring training in 1994. And I'm up at 5:30 in the morning getting ready for the field. I'm a strength coach, so I'm going to be at the weight room. Guys are going to be getting in, stretching, getting ready to go for a 9 o'clock stretch and workout. And it's about just before 6 in the morning. I sit down with my breakfast and I hear this, "Hey fella, you think I could sit with you?" And I'm like, I know that voice. And I'm like, "Sure, Mr. Harwell. Of course you can." And I was like,
Ernie Harwell, the announcer?
Yeah. And I just remember growing up with Ernie Harwell's voice on my radio every night, listening to the last 3 innings of the game when I came in after the streetlights came on. And I'd sit in my dad's office and then in the house, and we'd listen to Harwell call the last 3 innings, and it was iconic, man. I mean, just his voice, like in the night, was just like, man, this is what you want. And man, I knew I was in the first time my dad took me to a Tiger game, and you come over, like this is the old Tiger Stadium, right? And you just come over up the stairs and you see that grass field and you're like, man, I don't know if I've ever seen anything more beautiful than this, And
well, I consider baseball generational.
Yeah.
Great-grandfather, you can talk to the grandfather, you can talk to the son.
Yeah. And I coached Scott Spezio, and he and his dad are the only two that have ever won a world championship of father-son, and for the same team even, right? They were both Cardinals.
They're from my neck of the woods too.
Oh yeah, they're Illinois boys. There you go, another Illinois guys. Yes, of course. And yeah, I mean, just it was fun. Like when Ed would come around, just great to hear Ed's stories. And we had a GM named Bill Stoneman with the Angels, and Ed and Bill played, in that era together. I don't know if they were ever on the same team, but Bill was, and it's funny when I look back, like Bill Stoneman was probably 5'9", and a left-handed pitcher who had a really nice career. And I'm like thinking, man, I wonder if this guy could even get a chance now, because everybody's 6'5", like it's crazy. Let's talk about this, David. When you talk about the statistics, you see these pitchers, and you brought up one of the greats, and David Maddox, or Greg Maddox, won so many games. I mean, and he had a couple years with the Cubs and Atlanta that were just dynamite, right? This guy was, almost unhittable, right? And he's not running up the gun. He's not like, this is the guy who knew how to pitch. Why have we gone away from that?
Because a lot of it, I think, is the press. They're too impressed with the fastball. They're too impressed, with the launch angle. They don't really concentrate on the game. I'll just use Tommy again. Tommy was a pitcher. Okay. Yeah. He was somebody that mixed his pitches around, that threw off speed stuff.
Oh, yeah. Great stuff.
Like I said, a lot like Greg Maddox. That's a pitcher. Yep. Now they're told, just go out there as hard as you can, and we'll take you out, when you're gassed. To me, that's ruined the game. Personally, it's ruined the game because it doesn't allow for pitchers that have the moxie, have the talent, have the brains.
Well, let's talk about 2005, because you're a Chicago guy and you're wearing the gear, right?
Mm-hmm.
The White Sox win like the last 7-8 games of the regular season and get in the playoff by the skin of their teeth, right? And then they proceed to win every playoff game except one, right? They swept the short season. They beat us 4-1 in the American League Championship. I thought I was going to my 4th World Series. And then they swept the World Series. Mm-hmm. Who was they had a couple pitchers on that staff. And I'm trying to think of the one guy they had. I can't.
Jack McDowell?
Had Blackjack, which I coached him in Cleveland.
Garcia?
They had Garcia, who was a young gun at the time.
Yeah.
They had the Cuban.
Oh, Hernandez.
Yep, they had Hernandez, but there was a young white guy, and I think he was a righty.
Oh, yeah, they got him from the Cubs.
Yeah.
Richard Dotson.
No, that's not the guy I was thinking of. They had a kid that was Maddox-esque, 91, and he would just carve people up. He'd just go out there and just.
Britt Burns? Are you thinking of Britt Burns?
Nope. I'd have to look at that roster. I'll get it. But I think the reason I want to bring him up is that I think his influence
was. Are you thinking of Bobby Jenks?
No, I coached Bobby. Bobby, closer, big power guy, but a great curveball, amazing curveball. But he could throw 100 miles an hour. And Bobby was exactly where he should have been. There was a lot of people in the organization in Anaheim. I would have loved to see Bobby go to closer. And we had, of course, Percival. We had K-Rod. You add those 3 guys at the back of it and watch out. You're never scoring on the Angels after the 6th inning, right? But everybody kept saying he's got to be a starter. And why? He doesn't have the mentality for it. It's not his style. It's not his personality. There was a lot of intangible there. And the White Sox got him, immediately made him the closer. And that kid, he was almost unstoppable, right? You got to the 9th and you didn't have a chance. His hook is, I think he got named the best curveball in the Cal League, the Texas League, and then I think in the Pacific Coast League. At every level, he won that, hands down, everywhere he went. And here's a kid throwing 100 miles an hour. So he's got 2 threats, automatically. And yeah, it was crazy, man. But good for the White Sox, right? They were smart. But I'm trying to think of this guy. I don't think it was Garland. But I just think he changed the mentality of the staff. He was just like, I don't do anything fancy. I just get outs.
Right.
Yeah.
That's what you do.
Yeah. 16 ground balls a game, and it was like, yeah, we got people there. Like they're gonna pick it up. Like that's why these guys are pros.
The biggest difference I see between the game that I grew up in and you did, and now, is they allowed pitchers to pitch to contact. They allowed pitchers to get out of jams. They let them, Greg Maddux, that's what he did. He pitched to contact. He didn't strike out everybody.
No.
I saw Sandy Koufax pitch, the greatest pitcher I've ever seen. Bob Gibson, but they burned him. Koufax retired at 32, because he was done. His arm couldn't take it anymore.
Yeah.
Now, I'd like to see.
Well, Bob Gibson was a power guy, right? He used that power for intimidation, right? He was always in on people's hands.
Oh, yeah.
Yep. He was. I
gotta say, I lived in a good era.
Yeah, you look at Bob Gibson, like there's a lot of happy feet in the boxes when Bob Gibson's pitching, right? Yeah. And who hits well moving their feet around, right? Like this isn't good,
Yeah, but would Gibson be allowed to pitch the way he did now?
No.
You'd have people throwing bats at him.
He'd probably be suspended, 3 times a year for throwing too close. What?
I'm not a big fan. I'm not a big fan of today's game as opposed to when I grew up. I mean, I love watching it. Baseball's still my number one sport.
Yeah.
But I think they're taking bats out of some of the players' hands, and they're taking innings out of pitchers. Statistically speaking, in the first book that I did, is I've taken the statistics from day one till now, and I've put a point system together that grades careers. If somebody wins just say, for example, a player wins an MVP.
Yeah.
He gets 7 points.
Yep.
Say he wins an ERA table, he gets 3 points. And those add up. And that's what it should be. And that's where there's a place where the baseball writers have a say. But if somebody, I'll just say a guy like Barry Bonds, he should be a no doubt Hall of Famer.
Yeah.
You want to put him in a different category? I've made a different category where he's in the Hall of Fame, but you don't give him a plaque. Okay, his statistics, and he should be in there. He shouldn't be barred forever. It's almost 30 years now.
Well, and I guess here's the question that I have about this, and I've spoke a lot about this publicly, and I've never even been to the Hall of Fame, and unfortunately, in Cooperstown, which is sad. But in the 70s, and I'm a strength and conditioning guy, right? I know health and wellness, and I know what people are trying to do, and everybody wants an edge, and many people are making very hard efforts, to stay in the game. Some of the hardest workers like Aaron Erstad and Chad Curtis and some of these guys who came, Helton, people came out of other sports like football, and they knew hard work. They were unafraid of it, right? And when you just talk about this, and in the 70s, amphetamines were rampant. Greenies were a thing. Like let's go get in some amphetamines and get ourselves up for a game at 7:00, and then you got to take a cup of beer or something. Like you got to get something to take you down to sleep. It's a bad, but this wasn't uncommon. And back then, everybody thought amphetamines would make you perform better. They thought it was performance enhancing. Now, later that was proven that not so much, right? Because that's not how they would actually produce any more skill, more energy, sure, but skill, not really, right?
So you can't teach hand-eye coordination.
So if they thought they were getting an improvement, why are they all in the Hall of Fame? Like, amphetamines aren't legal. You can't just take them, at that level, at that height. This is not a new thing. People have been cheating from the word go, by the way, and there's a lot of cheaters that are in the Hall of Fame, right? So it's a tough one for me, like how these guys have kind of just skirted in how they use the narrative on certain players, and it doesn't, involve others and da 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 da. So I think Burley was the guy. Burley was there. I was thinking,
Oh,
the
yeah.
2005.
Mark Burley.
Yep. Burley was there. John Atkins was, nice pitcher. Freddie Garcia, you mentioned. John Garland, right? And I forgot they had Dustin Hermanson at the end of his career. Dustin was a nice ball player and had a great career. Mac Player played out of Kent State. And then you mentioned Jenks. Luis Vizcaino. They had a lot of Freddie Garcia was young time. Yeah, man, you're talking about 05 and he was born in 06. So, he's 19. Crazy.
Oh,
right?
Yeah. You got to see a lot of good players. You got to coach a lot of good players.
Yeah. I'm sorry. I was wrong. He was born in 76. So he was, he was 19. Yeah, 19.
Yeah. So
yeah, that's crazy. And Garland was young, 22. And
yes, he was.
Good group. Anchored by Brzezinski, right? A really solid catcher who really knew the game. What do you hear now, David, when you hear, one of the things, how do you react to people that tell you baseball is boring?
Well, you don't know the inside game. All you're looking at is you're listening to the announcers. They pick and choose what they want sometimes. I'm kind of critical on announcers because I grew up with Harry Carey, Jack Brickhouse. The best announcer I've ever heard was Lloyd Pettit. And they set the narrative. Like Lou Boudreau. I knew Lou Boudreau personally. I played baseball with his two nephews. Great guy, and he was a great ambassador. That's what they need to promote more. Ambassadors. One of the best. He's just short of Hall of Fame. He could be elected by the writers. Is Paul Konerko. Paul Konerko. Every game I've gone to probably 75 games of the White Sox. Always right behind the dugout. Every game he was there signing balls for kids. Yep. To me, he brought more to the fans than anybody I've seen. And I mean that. And I wrote about him.
One of the best guys I ever saw with that was Cal Ripken, right? Like Cal would he would come out of the ballpark at 11:30 midnight after his long-standing day of pre-work, everything else, and work out after the game. And we were walking out of Cleveland one night together, and I obviously I'm at home, right? And I said, Cal, you want me to drop you at the hotel? And he was like, oh no, like if they wait for me, I sign everybody. And there were probably 100 people at 12:15, and he stayed till 12:45 to sign it. And that's just who he was. Like he just knew who paid his salary, like why they come, and blah blah blah. And I was just like, man, this guy just gets it, right? Like it's pretty impressive.
I actually shed a tear the day that he broke Lou Gehrig's record because I watched it.
Yeah, the Iron Man.
I mean, he was class act.
Yeah. A lot of people think he saved baseball, right? Like, I mean, It was after the '94 strike. I was with the Tigers when the strike hit. Lost my job. Like, there's no staff, especially 1-year contracts. When they canceled the World Series, that was over. Save money, and that was good and right. I mean, no one knew was this thing going to be resolved. All those things. So it was almost a stay, and of course, a very interesting asterisk, right? The only year in all the history that there's no World Series.
Yep, it was very sad.
Yeah, very sad. Yeah, I struggle, David, with people who tell me baseball's boring. And I'm like, man, you're telling me you don't understand what's happening out there. And it's a lot going on. There's a lot going on every play. And it's just strategic, and what were some of the big strategic games when we were kids, like Risk And you remember some of the games that were just like these big setups and all these things, like before Dungeons and Dragons, right?
Oh, geez.
It was just, these statistical, very challenging, positional games. And I just thought, like, I wonder if those kids actually get baseball. I never played those games. Like, I played
never did
baseball,
either.
and it was constant strategy, constant.
Yeah, I used to keep the box scores for almost every game.
Tell people where they can find your website, David, and how they can get a hold of you.
My website is davidgue.com.
Okay, DAVIDGUE.com is where you find davidgue.com.
Yep.
And I will flash up his email here on how you can get a hold of David. David, you've written a couple things on the Hall of Fame. What inspired you to go there?
The two books, because
Yes.
I had prior writing experience in the industry, writing operational manuals and JSAs, and I just can't sit on my hands and do nothing. In baseball, I was encouraged by a friend of mine. We were sitting in my office one day, and we were talking about who's in the Hall of Fame and who's not, and we almost at the same time talked about Tommy John. And I said, I don't think he's in the Hall of Fame. He goes, well, I think he is. No, I looked at it. He wasn't in the Hall of Fame. So George goes, well, why don't you give him a call, and see if he'll let you write about him. So believe it or not, I did. I looked his number up and actually found his number and called him.
Nice.
Is
Tommy John in the Yellow Pages? Like, don't tell that to people. Don't tell that. Don't answer that.
But he actually called me back. We struck up a friendship. So I personally have interviewed Tommy and his wife, and that's what really inspired me. He was my third kind of idol that should be in the Hall of Fame that wasn't. And his statistics and the fact that surgery is named after him, he should have been a no-doubter. He should be in there twice, one for the surgery and one for his career.
Yeah, it's an interesting deal. To your point, you got inspired because you're a statistical guy. You've offered a solution, potential solution to maybe, and it's funny because we're all about algorithms. We're all about statistical solutions, right? And better process. And do you think they'll change this process?
I'm hoping very much, because there's a lot of players, that have statistics that are close, but they weren't fan favorites. I've seen many. Ron Santo was my biggest. I mean, I met Ron when I was younger, and the fact that he was one of the best third basemen of his era. Like a lot of people, talk about Brooks Robinson. Brooks Robinson was a great player, no doubt about it. But I believe Ron was a better hitter. He was almost as good a fielder. Yeah. So why did he have to wait till he passed before he was elected? To me, it's not right. Another one that I really think.
Ron was overcome.
I'm sorry, you broke up.
Yeah, Ron was overcome with diabetes, right?
Yeah, he did. He was the first one to come out with diabetes, with childhood diabetes, which is even worse.
Yeah, type 1. He was a type 1 guy. And, it was very difficult in his later years. I mean, it was very challenging before he passed. I mean, I know he had amputations, and, it was very tough. And, that's another, what a icon for a bunch of kids who are like told, especially in that era, oh, well, you're a type 1 diabetes. You should probably stay in the library. Like, well, Ron Santo plays third base for the Cubs. Like, you don't have to sit on your hands because you have this issue, right? And I think he was a real icon for a lot of people. And I think there's always these icons in the game, right? That I think shape things, and it's fun. It's fun to watch, right? Because the sports overcome you know, these people. And, I think of like a guy we had in Anaheim, right? Jimmy Abbott, right? And Jimmy, another Michigan kid, by the way, and played at Michigan. And, Jimmy, one-arm pitcher. Like, if you haven't seen the ESPN, E60 on him, I mean, I was in tears, man. Like, this guy's had a lot of impact on a lot of families who no one wants their kids to go through hard times. And he's giving a bunch of kids like, hey, you can do anything you want to do. Like, this is what I wanted to do. And you don't have to do what I wanted to do, but you can do it. You can do things in this life, and don't limit yourself because of a physical defect or anything that everyone else tells you should limit you. And Jimmy is probably one of the nicest guys in the world. He is the salt of the earth. And, his legacy goes so far beyond baseball, right? Like, and he's a guy who threw the no-hitter for the Yankees, right? I think was it a perfect game or just no-hitter?
Oh, it was a no-hitter.
It was a no-hitter. Yeah.
Yeah. Can I mention 3 players that I highlighted in my second book?
Yeah, let's do that before we wrap up.
Okay. One of them was by the name of John Wesley Leonard. He was considered better than Satchel Paige, but he was a Negro player that played before the Negro Leagues. Great
I've never
player.
heard his name. I have never heard his name.
Look him up in the book.
Yeah.
Really.
Right? And I mean, everyone's heard of Satchel Paige, right?
Have you ever heard of Lou Brissy?
Nope.
Lou Brissy is a war hero from World War II that had signed a contract with Connie Mack prior to going in. He enlisted in I think it was the Army, and his battalion got shell-shocked. He had 30 broken bones in his leg, and the doctors wanted to amputate.
Yeah.
He told the doctors, please don't do whatever you have to. I'm a ball player. I can't play.
Can't do that. So
they did it. It took him 2 years to get back. Connie Mack honored him by letting him. He wound up pitching 7 years. He was a war hero. I had to stop my second book because I personally didn't know much about him. Those are 2 of them.
Yeah.
And that's what my second book is about. Those that people forgot that shouldn't be forgotten.
Yeah.
And those are 2 inspiring stories. But the one, I'm a huge fan of the Negro Leagues. As a matter of fact, I have to tell this story. I was at my first ball game in 1966 with my grandfather. He goes over to the Cubs dugout and he starts talking to one of their coaches. I didn't know who it was. It was Buck Leonard. So I actually knew Buck Leonard from the time I was 8 till the time my grandfather passed away at 14. When I was 14, but I didn't know who he was till Burns came out with the history of baseball, and then the light went on. Oh my God, I know that guy. So,
yeah, it's amazing, right? When you think about it.
I was talking to him.
So you mentioned those 2. Who's the other player?
Geez, I just had a brain freeze. Do you ever have one of those?
Okay. While you're thinking about that, one of the things that always gets me is, when we talk about players for that are known for things, right? One of the tragic parts of this game is there's players like guys like Bill Buckner. And Bill Buckner in his, late years was playing first base, game 6, makes a big error, right? And okay, so human, everybody makes errors, like made a mistake. He's also, I think Billy Buckner was he was injured. Was he a war guy? Did he?
No.
He was not. I know he's an injured guy and he was limited late in his career. But, he's never lived that down. He's known for the Bill Buckner, gaffe, right? And by the way, it's game 6. Not like there wasn't another game. You still got a game to play. They were up. So game 7 goes, Mets win, yum, 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 yum. Rest is history. Red Sox are cursed, blah, blah, blah. Who has more hits? Like, Ted Williams is the most famous guy in Boston, is the best hitter. But Bill Buckner has more hits than Ted Williams. Like, I mean, this guy was an iconic player, and he's known for one gaff. I mean, that to me is tragic when you talk about guys that committed the time that he has to have over 2,700 hits in his career, right? I
Yes.
mean, it's crazy.
He was a
And
great guy too.
yeah,
He was
great,
very fan friendly.
great dude. Yeah. And so this is the stuff that just like happens in this game, and it happens in all sports. It's not like anyone's immune. And I mean, kickers today, right? You can hit 99 of 100, but you miss the one that's in the Super Bowl from 30 yards, and they'll never forgive you, right?
Correct.
And it's a rough part of the game. But what do you say when you talk to people who don't understand the level of someone who just played so long at that, and then they just remember the one thing?
What I tell people on all areas is do your own research.
Yeah.
Don't listen to anybody. Bill Buckner's perfect. If you really research, Buckner shouldn't even have been playing in the ninth inning.
No.
He was injured. They had a first baseman that they could have put him in. They were up by 2 runs. Buckner didn't lose that game.
Mm-mm.
See, that's where I get heartburned with the media.
Yeah, there's
Kurt Schilling.
there's a lot of behind the scenes to that.
Kurt Schilling's another one.
Yep.
He was one of the most dominant pitchers in the World Series and playoffs.
Yep.
He should have been a first ballot Hall of Famer. He's still not in. So
that another guy who kind of came on the heels of Maddox, right? Maddox was pretty late when Schilling came on. Still a San Diego Padre, I think, by then. And man, Schilling was following those footsteps, learning to carve players up. Like he was a pitcher. He was a pitcher.
Exactly. If people really want a good read, I'm kind of biased, but I think both the books that I've written go into great detail. The second one is more personal. The first one was more historical.
Yep.
With the records.
Yep.
But I do my case as far as the redoing the Hall of Fame voting, because honestly, and I've made a vow to a friend of mine that I won't set foot in the Hall of Fame until my guy Tommy is in there so I can give a speech.
Yeah.
And I probably shouldn't say that, but I mean it.
Yeah, and I don't know. I don't know if I'm ready to take a stand, but I think it's absolutely criminal that Barry Bonds is not in.
I agree. He's the best hitter I've ever seen.
Best, and everyone knows it. Like and this is the thing, right? Like you just need to ask his peers. Like his peers know it, right? They're like,
nobody asked the question about Barry, why he had such an acrimonious relationship with the press. Yeah. Nobody asked that. Yeah. But I can tell you, there was because of the way they treated his father.
Yep. Yeah, and one of the things about like Griffey and Bonds, like these are guys who have like they grew up in those clubhouses, right? Yes, like their dads were iconic. They were very good players. They were children in the clubhouse. Just like you felt home in Country Club Hills, Illinois, right? Like this is where I'm from, and I go to school, and this is what I do. I have a comfort level with my hometown, and my friends are here, and my family's here. Barry Bonds was in that clubhouse from the time he was 2, right?
Yes,
and this is his home. The rest of you guys are guests, like because I'll be here a long time, and he knew it. And you could talk all about the arrogance, but the confidence level matches the statistics, right? Because the intentional walk RBIs, the things that just nobody else has that he has, like we are willing to give up a run as opposed to actually this guy do 3 or 4 run damage here.
Exactly.
We are not interested in. And that's just a crazy statistic when you're talking about one of the best 250 players is also on that hill. And they're just going, yeah, I don't have any faith in you there, Jim. He's just that much better than you. Walk him, and let's just look at the next guy. And that's a shot to your ego too. If you throw 100 miles an hour, like, give me a shot at this guy. Like, no, we're not going to do that.
Well, another thing is Mark McGwire. people really don't dig into Mark McGwire. Most people have no clue where the steroid era started. It was a reporter needed a story because the World Series was gone in '94, and McGwire and Sosa. I'm not a big Sosa fan, but they saved baseball. Without that, baseball was irrelevant.
Yeah,
and they found.
Well, I think maybe it's one of the challenges is that baseball was benefiting so much. Does it serve the institution to look the other way? Because like we're all gaining this, like we don't want to talk. It's kind of like let's just sweep this under the rug. It's not an issue, right? Mm-hmm. And then it becomes an issue. It's the old. Well, it's the pain exchange, right? You can deal with the discipline of it now, or you're just going to regret it because you didn't actually take a stand on it and do something about it. And now they don't want to own it. They just want to put it all on the individuals, which, I think there's got to be some shared responsibility here. But at the end of the day, like Barry Bonds was already a Hall of Famer before he ever, got bigger, stronger. Steroids are not going to change his hand-eye coordination. Confidence, yes, there's a lot of things there. It's a very challenging, and I think the other side of this is that it's a shocking number of pitchers that were using steroid for recovery.
Right, Andy Pettitte even said it.
He admitted it, yes, and yet his counterpart right there, who was right with him the entire time, did not admit to it, and did not admit to it in Congress.
Mm-hmm. You're right.
I mean, I don't know, man. Like there's some people that, have not served this thing well, but I will tell you, this has been exciting, David, to talk a little shop with you. Please go check out davidgue.com. You can reach him directly, dwgue1958 at yahoo.com. That is DWGUE1958 at yahoo.com. He is the author of the Baseball Hall of Fame, a fan statistical analysis, and just a great fun read about what's going right, what's going wrong, what could be different, looking at the history. And I'm sure if you've ever had a beef about a player, David would love to talk with you a little bit about that because he's got some concepts and ideas on that. For everybody else, thank you for joining us on the Winners Find a Way show. I am a growth coach. You can find me in a lot of different places. And you can reach me at trent@leadershipity.com. And of course, that is trent-clark.com. You can find me. And feel free to get on my Calendly, reach out, email. If you take a 15-minute call about your growth schedule and how to get unstuck in your organization, I send you a free book called Flourish about all the playbook of how to manage that systems and process. And of course, I'm a Nick Saban guy. I coach with Coach Saban at Michigan State. Process is king. And we just watched it with Indiana football, man. Like process works. And, the people that really get that and understand how to teach it and train it, game changer. So exciting times for everybody else. Join Winners Find a Way at 10 o'clock Eastern every Thursday, Facebook Live, LinkedIn Live, and our Leadershipity YouTube channel, 7 a.m. Pacific. Join us then. For everybody else and my guest, David W. Gue, thank you for joining us today on the Winners Find a Way show.
Thank you very much, Trent. I enjoyed it very much.